It's so interesting. It's so interesting to me that we talk a lot about inspiration to write and inspiration to get a word count in, but we don't step back and go, yeah, but if you're not inspired in life in general, how can you really drill into your writing in a really powerful way? So I love this idea of stepping back and saying, how do we stay inspired for life itself? How do we keep going just on the big things so we can do the specific things? So are we starting?
Yes.
Oh, we're starting.
We can go ahead and get it going.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm James L. Rubart, and I was asked to MC this panel. So really excited to do this because this is, like I was just saying, this is a subject that I'm pretty passionate about. And it's interesting to me that in our culture, it's very common for people to say, well, how are you exercising your heart? In other words, are you getting some cardio in? Are you weightlifting? Are you walking? Are you hiking? So we talk a lot about exercising our physical hearts to stay healthy, but we really don't ask the question, how do we exercise our spiritual hearts? And this is a question that I love to ask the students that go through the Rubart Writing Academy. In fact, it's one of the exercises we do. And so I'm gonna give you some examples of how I exercise my heart. And then I would love to hear from our panel, from our authors, how you exercise your heart. And the easy response is, oh, I exercise my heart, my spiritual heart, by spending time in the Word and praying and that kind of thing. Okay, let's just assume that that's going on. But what else do you do in your life that absolutely makes you come alive? And here's some examples from my life. I have not been to the ocean for probably 3 years now. And yet I know it's a place when I walk on that beach, when I watch those waves, either walk by myself or with my wife, Darcy. I mean, that exercises my heart. There's just something in me that's inspired simply being at the ocean. When I play my guitar, I love to play guitar, and when just doing instrumental music, there's just something that just makes my heart come alive. When I dirt bike by myself or with friends, there's just something about that makes my heart come alive. I'm inspired. I love going on hikes, and you get to that view and that lookout, and you're just going, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired, and I feel so close to the Lord. And so my question, what do you guys do to exercise your heart? Maybe ideas that we can take and use in our own life.
Well, do you mind if we take a minute just to introduce who the panelists are?
Oh, great idea. Yes.
For this session. So I am one of the panelists. I am Yolonda Tonette Sanders, co-founder of the Faith and Fellowship Book Festival. And then I am here with my featured title, Connecting with Christ, 52 weekly devotionals to nurture spiritual growth. And then I will turn the baton over to Cindy.
Okay, I'm Cindy Thomson, along with Yolonda, the co-founder of the festival. And this is my featured book, Celtic Wanderings. It is a 40-day devotional inspired by the ancient Celtic saints. And that's what I'm here with. And who's up next? Sharon?
Okay, hi, I'm Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott, and my featured book is behind me. A Woman God Can Bless. And this is based on Ephesians 4, so that we can take off what we need to take off and put on what we need to put on. Okay, so I'll throw it over to Christina.
Actually, Miko. Christina's not on this panel.
Oh, okay.
So.
Sorry, Miko.
Okay. I'm Miko Marsh. Oh, y'all can't really see it. That one, the one in the middle. It's like, you don't want success. I do a lot of nonfiction, and I run into a lot of people who have questions. You know, we have those gurus and the people that you think about that are way up there that have done everything, but sometimes you just don't want to get that far up. You're like, how can I just get comfortable? So in that, I have 9 or 10 topical chapters where I address things that are fears or excuses to keep us from completing things that we need done. And I've interviewed several professionals to help us get there. So it's that middle section helping through.
So, James, can you repeat your question one more time? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, not at all. How do you exercise your heart? In other words, what makes your heart come alive? Are there certain practices that you do on a regular basis to exercise your heart? As I said, for me, it's hiking, it's dirt biking, it's playing my guitar. It's definitely solitude time, being alone. So what are those things that you do that exercise your heart?
I think for me, sometimes listening to music, and particularly gospel music. There are different genres of gospel music even. And, there are times when I need those hymns, those old school church hymns to get me through. Then there are other times when I can do a little more contemporary. So listening to music, exercising, that's one of the things that, I feel holistically well. For me, a lack of discipline in one area of my life indicates a lack of discipline in multiple areas of my life. And exercise is one of those disciplines. So when I find myself, going weeks at a time, sometimes months, and that's an alert to me. Something spiritually is going on.
Yeah, that's so good, because I'm like you, where it's so easy to get out of my routine. As simple as this sound, I wrote down, okay, I'm going to walk out. There's a dead end sign that's probably, I don't know, it can't be more than 100 yards from the end of my driveway. So it's not a long distance. But I wrote down, you need to walk there. Just walk there twice a day, where you just, you just leave it all behind for just 200 yards twice a day and get into that discipline. And it's so easy for us to, oh my gosh, I haven't done that for a week or 2 weeks or a month. So I really appreciate you saying that. Someone else, what do you do to exercise your heart?
What fills my cup is my grandbabies. They live all the way in New Orleans, and I am in Los Angeles. And so when I get a chance to spend time with them, or of course, that's not that much. So we're on the phone, we're FaceTiming and everything. And it's just, even them, they're little. So 2, 4, and 7. So there's not a lot of conversation, but when I call, they say, no, and it's like, I am welcome in the room,
Yeah.
I am what they pay attention to for 3 minutes. Okay. They go do something else. And so that is just, I'm a people person.
Yeah.
So, being behind a computer all the time can just get, can just grate on you. So anytime that I can be with them, or even when I go to conferences and things of that nature, being with y'all, like right now, there's a group of people, right? That just fills my cup. I just love it.
Yeah, no, that's so good, Sharon. So my brother-in-law's son, I saw him yesterday. We were driving back from Darcy and I were driving back from the beach, and he's got this Spider-Man. He's how old is Caden? He's 5 years old, maybe. He's got this Spider-Man outfit on, right? And he's jumping around, he's shooting his webs at me and this kind of thing. It brings so much life just to see the life that's in. So I totally get that. I love that. So who else has an idea on how you exercise your heart?
I have I guess a few things, because I can never really do the thing that I need at the time. Spiritually, I have a tendency to, I'll play a video game, like a Candy Crush or Homescapes or something. I'm on like 7,000 or something. I've been playing for a long time through the pandemic. But I'll listen to it. I'll listen to sermons while I'm playing, and sometimes I'll go to something different. Like it's kind of like, can I find the gospel in this sermon? Because a lot of them aren't really gospel centered. And then other times it's that solitude. I like people, and then I'm like, go away. I love you. I need to love you way over there. Let
Right.
me go sit and look at the water and the trees, maybe have some music playing. And then one of the things that gets me very excited, a lot like Dr. Elliott, is open mics. I love open mics. I love our writing groups. I love going to classes where I get to be with other artists because we inspire each other, even if we're not doing the same thing. I'm writing, but somebody else is acting it out. And then somebody else can videotape it and then bring it to life. And we're like, oh, we did that. It's not good, but I'm entertained. And that's all that matters.
That's right. It's that connection point. And what you say about, you're kind of talking about solitude, where you go out, you simply look at the waves or look at the water or look at the trees, and you've got music playing. I know none of you feel like you're too busy, but I feel like I am. And a friend of mine, for my birthday, I had a birthday in September, and a friend of mine gave me this book, it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I am just loving this book so far. And one of the things he talked about that I just never saw in scripture before is when Jesus goes out to the desert for 40 days. And then at the end of that, he has this battle of identity with the enemy. And I honestly never saw this before. I always saw that desert time as being difficult and challenging. And basically, Jesus is no food and he's going to be as weak as possible. He's at his weakest when he faces the enemy. And he said, no, you got it all wrong. Jesus went out there and he needed 40 days to actually build up his strength.
Sorry.
Because in solitude, and when we are not eating and we are focusing on the Lord instead, and we have these times of solitude with the Lord where we can really listen and commune with the Lord, that makes us stronger. So he was actually getting as strong as possible before he had that confrontation. And it was just such a reminder to me that the first thing that goes when I get busy is, solitude or Sabbath. And it was like, oh, Jim, you want to exercise your heart? You need solitude. So.
That is important. I think I recently said something, we hear this thing that we say it a lot because we're so busy being busy. And people say, I'll rest when I die. And recently I started thinking, you might just get that. Because we don't have a tendency to want the rest. We're so used to that pressure of always having to do stuff and then not realizing that we're not operating at full capacity. We're not operating at our most efficient because we don't allow ourselves to rest. Like I saw a study, I think, on the way the brain cleans itself. And unlike the rest of our body, when you go to sleep, it kind of shrinks and it has like this little fluid that goes through and it kind of washes away all the extra stuff that you don't need. So if we don't take the time to properly rest, we're injuring ourselves.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
It's so good right now to hear that, because Yolanda and I need to hear that because the festival, honestly, we work on it for a year, but the last month is just crazy. And I have to agree with Sharon, because I have my grandkids, I have them full time, and the youngest one's 7 months old. And of course, they are so much of an inspiration, but I have them full time. So I get tired. And just last weekend, my husband and I went out in the backyard in the fire pit, and the leaves are just glorious right now in Ohio, and just sat there. And that kind of filled the tank again.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever take for granted these kids, because having had my own kids, I know how fast they grow up and how fast they change. But you need to step back and just breathe.
Yeah, just breathe. Literally, you look at Navy SEALs, and one of their breathing exercises is they do these 10 slow breaths, right? If we did that even once a day, what a difference it would make. And that scripture that, if you follow Jesus for a long time, is almost, rote, be still and know that I am God. I mean, think about that. Be still. Know that I am God. It's not saying even talk to God. It's just being
Mm.
still and meditating, just the thought that he is God. And it's how refreshing that can be. And so, yeah, that is definitely a hard exercise. Okay, I want to move to a question. One of the things that Sharon talks about that I love is she is all about living a life of significance, right? Living a significant life. And to do that, I think there has to be intentionality. You have to be intentional about things. You have to say, all right, I'm going to schedule this and I'm not going to be able to do that. So Sharon, talk to us a little bit about that, living a life of significance and what you have possibly sacrificed. Okay, sorry, can't binge that Netflix show, or what you've done in your life intentionally to make that significant, to set yourself up for significance.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. First of all, I stumbled upon that quite by accident. My pastor at the time just asked me just a simple question, and he just said, "What do you want?" And it was a kind of the "what do you want out of life?" And I answered before I even thought, and I said, "I want my life to count." And that's where, eventually came to the phrase, live significantly, right? I want that little dash on my tombstone to really have meant something.
Yeah.
And so just starting on a quest, I think, to say, like, what do I really want? I was pregnant at the time with my first child. So what I really wanted was to make a difference in their lives. Okay, so how am I going to do that? It kind of just went, I taught school. And so I chose to be at home with them when they were little. I took off to be at home with them until they could go to school. And then I taught at a school that had a preschool, right? So that they were with me.
Yeah.
It was just a short amount of time that when they were middle school, because you couldn't pay me enough to teach in middle school, but that's another story. That they weren't with me, but they came back with me and I transferred to a high school. They were at high school. So being with my kids, that was a significant thing for me. And so I need to make choices, right? Now I taught in a private school, so I didn't make the big money, right? That I could have made in public school and going up and being an administrator and all that kind of thing, because there was some significance that I needed, right?
Yeah.
For my kids. And so the choices that started, I think, with it's the choices that we have to make looking forward, because I always plan to live past tomorrow. And so rather than plan for tomorrow, right? I was planning for like now, right? I was planning then, so that now I'm in a position that the job I do, I'm retired from teaching, but the job I do in helping other people live their significant life, right, is everything that I want to do. So living significantly, it's the forward thinking, and looking at what God, right, has planted in you, but then really doing that purposefully. Yeah.
And do you find a lot of people, do they resonate with that? Is kind of a light bulb goes off? Is that, I have to think that that's pretty satisfying to you when you see people go, oh my gosh, I can make decisions to live intentionally and set myself up for 5 years if the Lord doesn't come back, or you're not taken home 5, 10, 20 years into the future. Yeah. And we have got, as believers, we have got to live like we actually believe what the Bible says. Okay. So if God wants us to he wants you to teach, or he wants you to minister, you want whatever it is that he wants you to do, and it's going to take you out of what the world says, Miko, is success, right? It's going to take you from that. But I am like so successful, it's stupid, right? Because I'm pleased with what God wants me to do. Yeah. Right?
And so, yeah, people resonate with that a lot, but it's really a retraining of my brain. No, I don't live in a super big house. You know, I have to watch the Property Brothers so that I can appreciate, the super big houses. I may never live like that, but, I got my clients, I got my grands, I've got, like my husband just read in my office and he said, there's a movie coming on tonight. We got, so I said, oh, it's movie night. Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So that makes me think of this question. I want all of our panelists to answer this question because I think it's really important. And that is, what is your definition of success? Because I see so many writers that I've worked with, and a lot of you have probably seen writers. It's like, well, the definition of success is easy. I want to be published, right? That's my definition of success. And I want to sell lots of books, or I want to win awards. Those are the three that I keep hearing again and again and again. And I don't, that doesn't fit my definition of success. So I'm just wondering how each of you would define success.
Just throw something out real quick then, and piggyback off of Dr. Elliott. I've never defined success the same way that we see it. And I like to get really basic. It's accomplishing the thing that you set out to do, regardless of what that is. If you're going to create the next social media app and you do it, now you've met your goal. If you're trying to get your GED, now you've met your goal once you've done it, and with that, because I do have a chapter in here that is based on for believers, doing what God has purposed us to do. And I keep hearing this question. And one time I started to write about it, but I'm like, I just put it out for free, people like, what is my purpose? And I'll say, turn to Colossians 1. Your purpose is to glorify God, period. You're either going to glorify him with your life or you're going to glorify him with your destruction. But one way or the other, you're going to glorify God. So, once you've gone through the gospel and you understand this and you're living your life for him, the things that you chase change. You could, the most significant thing that you've ever done could have been 15 years ago, or it could be 15 years down the road. But wherever you are and wherever you're working, you are like Paul says, we're members of the body. Right. You could be an internal piece. You could be a finger, you're a toe. You're not doing what everybody else is called to do. You're doing what you're here to do. So wherever you are, that's where you fit in. And you do what you can to the best of your ability and glorify God.
Oh, wow, I love that. Rather than follow this and this and these people and this, no, I only have one thing to follow, and that's what God has purposed me to do. So, someone else have a thought on that? What's your definition of success?
I don't know if I could say it any better than that, really. This is a question that they ask at writers' conferences all the time, and it kind of makes people squirm, but there's a purpose to it because we need to have the right focus, and we do get caught up in, did I do what I need to do to be on the bestseller list, or am I writing what's popular today? And I just feel like if I'm writing what God put on my heart and somebody reads it, somebody's touched by it, whether they tell me or not, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. I don't know I can find it any other way.
My mom used to say, work like everything depends on you, pray like everything depends on God. And I have found that to be so true. As I've grown in writing, right? Grown in my writing career and all of that, I've noticed that, hey, God has the timing that is just crazy, You know, like I have been trying to publish a children's series that is theology for little kids, like forever.
Yeah.
And I know it's good. The people, you know, everybody who sees it, right, says, but of course I have to get it published for people to see it. And now it's got a publisher, it's getting out. But what is the timing? Kids have been out of Sunday school. Church has been closed. It's time for kids and their parents, right, to know this theology on this really cute. And I'm kind of, you know, Jesus, that was pretty good timing on your part. Although I wanted this done 7 years ago.
Right.
And so I worked and worked and worked and got it to where, you know, it's supposed to be. You know, then I just went on and started working on something else, you know, and let the patience of that, you know, so you work, yes, you work. But you do somehow you got to be able, you know, to leave that timing up to God. Yeah, I want to be a bestseller. Yeah, I want some awards and all that. Everybody would, but that's not what I'm chasing. You know, hopefully those things might come.
Well, you know, Sharon, you said something earlier, and you said you want that dash on your tombstone to mean something. Yes. And I've had this talk with several people, and as a matter of fact, just last week, I was talking to someone, and I said, you know, when I die, yeah, the books are nice. The degrees are nice, you know, accolades are nice, but when all is said and done, there's only two things that I really want people to take away from my life. One is how much I love Jesus. Yeah. And then the second is how much I love my family. And because I love Jesus, the things that I do, the work that I do, is because I love Jesus. Right. But those, and you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, to sound religiously correct or anything. That is true. If nothing else gets mentioned at my eulogy, those are the two things that I want to leave behind. Yeah. Is how much I love those that I love.
Well, that's a wrap. Let's go home.
Amen.
No, that's so good. I mean, seriously, Yolanda, that is so good. That's so beautifully put, because I was at, this was before my first novel was published, and I was at a writing retreat led by Cease Murphy, and some of you know Cease. And at one moment during the retreat, the Spirit just spoke to me, and I looked Cease in the eyes and I go, oh my gosh, Cease, it's not about the writing, is it? And he just looks at me and he smiles. He goes, yeah, Jim, it's not about the writing. And what I realized in that moment is God has certainly called me to write. But the ultimate purpose of all this is to make me more like Jesus. Yes. Right? That's the purpose. And he could have used if I decided to be a chef, or he could have used it if I decided to be a teacher or a travel guide, or it doesn't matter, right? The point of this thing is it's not about the writing. It's about these, and I'm not going to call it trials. I'm going to say these situations and these challenges and these trainings. I don't like the idea of discipline because it feels like I'm being punished. But if it's like, Jim, do you want to run a marathon? Oh, yes, I do, Lord. I'd love to run a marathon with you. Okay, then we're going to go and do some workouts, right? And so it's like the Lord saying, I'm going to use some workouts, and I'm going to use writing as the tool to do that. But the point is, right? And so anyway, all that to say, Yolanda, I love how you said that. In the end, it's do they say, boy, he loved Jesus, and wow, he loved his family. And that's the core of it. Yeah. That's the core of it. Okay, Miko Marsh. Is that your real name?
Yes.
God, that's a great name. That's a great name. I love that.
I've grown to love
it. So you have an interesting book out. I think it's called Living with Jezebel. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And so and I've had some run-ins in my life. I've had some training ground with narcissistic people.
I'm sorry.
Within the writing world, how do we keep life from being sucked out of us by these narcissistic people? And what are the warning signs? There's a great meme that goes that I've seen lately, and it says, as we grow in confidence, the red flags become, the red flags are no longer red flags. The red flags are deal breakers. And so talk to us a little bit within the writing world. How do we keep life from being sucked out by those narcissistic people?
Shameless plug. There'll be a documentary that's planned for next year. I'm working with Gen Pop, so our technical advisor. So hopefully they'll have some more in there because they've got like legal experts and counseling and stuff. But I think as we've talked about things that are important to us and staying close to Christ, that's really the guard, regardless of where we are. If you're looking at things biblically, and one of the ways that we get sucked in with narcissism is that we tend to follow emotions, and they are so very easily manipulated by a narcissist because that's what they're feeding off of. They're waiting for that response. So you have to detach and look. And there are a couple of things that just kind of stand out when you're talking to them, listening. One is how they respond to no, when you don't give them what they want. How they respond to the gospel, particularly if they say they use the words, they use the language, and how often things center back to them. They are very themselves centered. So when you're in this area, and depending on where they are, their position is with you, you may have to document. And since you are a writer, you keep documenting, keep it objective, and only communicate through email if necessary. Just say, so according per our conversation, you stated da 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 da, because you have to be ready to back yourself up. It is very factual. It's very this, and you just have to be ready to just go in very almost like you're always presenting a case. But it can be fun. It's a struggle. It is. I haven't really the narcissists I've dealt with I haven't really had any in this field that I've had a lot of enough run-ins to pay attention to them. But they're there, and especially if it's going to be dealing with your money, your livelihood.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Well, you bring up a really good point. I'm just speaking of myself now, that I know I at this stage I realize I'm a neurotic, emotional person, right? I think artists often are. And so I love your counsel that you have to get factual. You can't go by your emotion. But this person is so, because narcissists can oftentimes be charismatic and draw you in and this kind of thing. And so I love your idea of keep notes so you can see patterns and not rely on your emotions to make decisions, but rely on kind of the hard evidence.
One of the things I tell people to remember, and because there were several reasons I chose this cover, but if you look at this one, your first thought is that you're looking at this woman because you can't tell what her expression is, but you're not looking at her. If you notice, you're looking at the mirror. What you're seeing is the image that she's projecting. You're not seeing the real person. And when you're dealing with narcissists, you're not dealing with the real person. You're dealing with the image that they're projecting.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I had the perception for a long time that whether it's the writing world, whether it's academics, whether it's sports, music, any endeavor, I really believe the myth of natural talent. I thought some people are just more naturally talented than others. And if you have it, you have it. And if you don't, you don't. I had my nephew is just this phenomenal guitar player. And years ago, he said to me, I said, man, you just got this unbelievable natural talent. He goes, no, Jim, I've worked my butt off to get this good. And I'm like, yeah, sure you have. And for the last year, I've played guitar forever, but I've never played lead guitar, and I'm teaching myself lead guitar, and I'm starting to kind of get it. And so I sent him a note. I said, wow, Kaylin, I never got it, and now I get it. It's most of it is really hard work. And that goes along with a book I read called Grit by Angela Duckworth. Some of you know that book, right? It's this brilliant book. It's basically, talent isn't it. Sure, talent helps. But the thing that is going to allow you to truly fulfill your God-given potential, whether it's a little or a lot, is perseverance. And so I'd like to hear from a few of you. Talk to that person who is feeling like giving up right now. It's like, I just can't get this thing and I might as well give up because I just don't have the talent to do it. Talk to that person for us a little bit.
I like to, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I like to let people know that when it comes to writing, okay, it's like getting a vision, doctors, for example, say, I knew I wanted to be a doctor, right? Ever since I was little, it was just something in me, right? That wanted to be a doctor or what have you. And I like to tell writers, okay, there's something in you that you're saying you want to be a writer, but just like a person who has a vision to be a doctor, they need to be battered into the shape of that vision. And what does that? Medical school, right? You are not going to get a vision from God about being a doctor and then walk in to General Hospital and start operating on people, right? You are going to go to years and years and years and years of medical school. You're going to have teachers, and you're going to have mentors, and you're going to practice on dummies, all of that. It is the same as a writer. God could have called you to write. He could have even called you to write this particular thing. Great. Go to medical school. Go to conferences, get a mentor, get a teacher. All of that, is still necessary. You have to be battered into the shape of that vision in order for God to get it across, so when folks come, please don't say to me now as an agent, right? God gave this to me and, he led me to you. And I just know that you are going to put it in the hands of, wait, hold on. All of these people we're dealing with know Jesus too. He talks to them too. So, just the whole idea of being battered into the shape, right, of the vision. God gives you a vision, yes, but it still needs to be worked into that masterpiece now that God wants it to be.
Even the writers of the Bible had their study time.
Hello.
That's right. Yolanda, did you have a thought?
Well, it's funny, and it goes along with what Sharon was saying, is that, I like to say that writing is a skill that can be developed over time. And to me, what's unique about writing is that I really believe that given the time and the intention put into honing the craft, people can learn how to write. Think about it. Writing is not like singing. I'm sorry. You can desire to sing all day long, but if you can't make a joyful noise, it will not sound good to anyone but the Lord because it's coming from your heart. No matter how many classes you go to, anything, it will only sound so good. But writing, if you put that time in, you will see that you can get better and better and better and better. And so that's what I think is unique about writing. Unlike any other gift, I like sports. Can't play basketball or volleyball or anything to save my life, no matter how much time I put into it. But writing, I just think that's something that, people can do. And I laughed, Sharon, when you were saying, people come with the Lord said, thus saith the Lord, right? And I have that same mentality. I had a lady call me one time, and she told me the Lord had given her a book, and he was going to allow me to help her with it. I have not returned that call to this day, and it's been over 16 years. So
Yeah, I have a tendency to be pretty, I love jokes and I love laughing, and things like that. And I have a tendency to be pretty straightforward, right? You want to write a book? Okay, let's get to work on it. But I love to tell people, okay, God gave you this book. God can spell.
yeah.
Let's think about how much, partnering, right?
We're partnering with God. That's right.
That comes together. Right. I do, Jim, I do believe that there is a talent involved in writing, just like in speaking.
Yep.
Everyone, is not going to be able to get the same message across in the same kind of way.
Right.
Right. But regardless of how much talent you have, right? We watch a lot of basketball, and football and, and stuff like that, right? LeBron James, if he hadn't practiced, we wouldn't know him. So I believe he's talented, and I believe he's maybe more talented than even some other men in the NBA. But trust and believe, he got to put the work in.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up with this because we're a little bit over, but I think what Dr. Elliott is saying is critically important. And that is, are there some people that are simply they do have more innate talent? Absolutely. I mean, LeBron James, right? He was born with that body.
Yeah.
Right. But if you look at, and I'm a golfer, so Tiger Woods popped into my mind, right? And we can have the debate whether Nicholas or he was the greatest of all time, but we can at least say he's one of the top two of all time. And then you look at his work ethic.
Yeah.
And if you've read any books on Tiger Woods, this guy was insane in his willingness to work and work and work and work and work at it. And in the end, my definition of success is really simple, and it comes from the parable of the talents. You've got three people. They're each given money, two double the money. The third one just buries it in the ground. What I've always found fascinating about that story is there's not a fourth person where they tried and they blew it and they lost all the money. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a reason that fourth person is absent. In other words, I think God's definition of success, and this is how I define success, is did you try?
Yeah.
Did you take what you had? Maybe you didn't have the 10 grand the other guy had. Maybe you didn't have the 5 grand the second guy. Maybe you only had the $1,000. But with that $1,000, you tried as hard as you could. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how God says, well done, good and faithful servants. You tried your hardest with what you had. Right. So, and so with that, we're a little bit over. I hope that's okay, Yolanda and Cindy. But this has been great input. Thank you, all of you, for such great and insightful answers. And I'm going to turn it over to Yolanda for the final words.
Well, thank you for moderating this panel. Everyone on the panel, would you just like to take like the last 10 seconds, everyone, just to tell everyone once again your featured book? And we have the links on our website, but just your title. So we'll go ahead and Miko, you start and we'll take it around.
Miko Marsh, feature titles: You Don't Want Success, Demolishing Excuses Used to Prevent You from Achieving Your Goals.
Cindy?
Mine is a devotional. It's a 40-day devotional. Influenced by the Celtic saints. History is my thing. So this is This is short little devotionals that you can read, preferably in the evening, which is what the Celts did.
And then I am connecting with Christ and 52 weekly devotionals. Fun fact, Cindy is a contributor to this devotional. And then Dr. Sharon Elliott, would you like to take us out?
Okay, my featured book is A Woman God Can Bless, based on Ephesians chapter 4, so that we can make sure that we take off what we